creepy Jailbait PC assaults police officer PC over shit that happened outside the game. Okay, first I need to set the stage a bit, because this was the straw that broke the camel's back, rather than a Rony-off incident. The important figures herein are Jack, creator of the Jailbait PC, and Bert, creator of the police officer PC. Now I don't want to make it seem like Jack was a total asshole. Out of game he was a decent guy, but when he played RPGs he tended to shit things up for the rest of us. We ran a 2-year long anime based campaign with round robin gming depending on who had the time to prep something. When Jack played, his PC was a min-max nightmare wonder kind, and when he'd med he often took liberties with the ongoing story that derailed intended character arcs. As that campaign was sputtering out, the DM that originated, but rarely ran it anymore, created a new campaign in the superhero system Silver Age Sentinels, published by the now defunct Guardians of the Order. Now there were a bunch of players in the previous Anin campaign and a few of them weren't invited back, and I was against inviting Jack into the Silver Age Sentinels game because of his tendency to power game. Jack didn't join at first, but eventually he did. Now the officer player, but had made a grumpy middle-aged cop who didn't like superpowers. But what none of us knew at the time was that this cop, Murdoch, was actually a pastiche of Kamen Rider, one of Bert's favorite shows. And I also didn't know at the time. Bert had talked Jack's ear off outside the game about Kamen Rider, leaving Jack with an understandable distaste for the topic. But that didn't really excuse what happened when Jack finally did join. He rolled up a character wheel called Callie, a part-time goth biker chick, and Jack's initial description of her was very lurid and sexual despite her being 14 or 15. I think Jack was 21 then. So that was strike 1. Strike 2 came in our first combat, in which Callie revealed her demon form that felt like it came from an anime or video game I wasn't familiar with and, in true Jack fashion, felt overpowered next to the rest of the party. That was strike 2 for me. But we didn't even get to strike 3, because the batter turned and started beating up his pinch hitter. See, despite Callie's overpowered nature, the fight we were in was a bit rough, and Murdoch finally had to reveal his secret abilities, transforming into his Kamen Rider-esque form. Well, as soon as Callie's turn comes up again, Jack loses all semblance of player character separation and just has Callie lay into Murdoch for no in-game reason. And as far as I knew at the time, no real out-of-game reason either. The DM sort of went quiet for a moment, and since Bert's turn was next, he had Murdoch make a counter-attack. And at that point I was just fully checked out of the game. I believe that was the last session entirely, but either way it didn't last long after that. A few months later we switched to D&D 4e, which we heard was much less susceptible to power gaming, and never looked back. Also, Jack opted not to join due to uni coursework, but I also kind of think he was reading the room that we were sick of his bullshit. TLDR, already frustrating player takes an out of character pet peeve out on another player's character and brings a promising campaign to a screeching halt. GM allows Park for no apparent reason beyond not wanting to get involved. TLDR at bottom. Some background. I had been out of the loop in terms of Pathfinder for a few years, and when I found out one of my coworkers was also into Pathfinder, we decided to set up a group. He was GM, and I was playing a monk. We finally found a group of 4 players and began session 0. But the only player that matters is X. Now, in session 0 we introduced our characters and decided against in a party park. I was Ragnar the human monk, while this other person was X, the dwarf druid with a dinosaur animal companion. We had talked outside the session a bit and decided we had grown up together. In hindsight, first red flag. After a few sessions we have a disagreement in character about what to do, and he started arguing out of character about your character would not disagree with me. We are best friends. Okay, whatever. In character my character comes around to avoid too much conflict at the table, and we continue. Second red flag. After a few more situations of him micromanaging my character, GM starts acting up too. We were crossing a bridge without checking the area, so my character decided to cut the bridge behind us so no one could ambush us. Other player was neutral, while X was against it. I decided to do it, so X had his dinosaur grapple me. Sure, why not? Except this time, The GM decided that the dinosaur was okay stupid to grapple and rolled a 50/54 grapple or attack. So guess what? His dinosaur attacked me and crit. Okay, sure, whatever. So much for no party fighting. I turn around and get mad at the dinosaur, who is again too stupid to stop attacking. I hit the dinosaur. At this X flies into a rage and orders his dinosaur to attack me and joins the fight himself. Other players are just starting dumbfounded at this event, but GM allows it. It's canon now, he says. Okay, I'm knocked unconscious. Instead of ending it there, Druid pulls out his scythe and executes me in cold blood because I wanted to cut a rope bridge. I ask GM to rescind all this since it's not part of our agreed plan, and he says it already happened. Okay, sure. First game in 5 years and I lose my character to a park. Best thing, according to his backstory, I was his only friend and we had known each other for 20 years before he got his animal companion. I get the whole companion link, but he executed my character in cold blood for defending myself thanks to a call made by the GM instead of stopping the fight. Apparently your character would not do this. We are friends only works one way. TLDR, GM allows a player to kill my character, even though everyone had agreed on no party killing. Just because I was defending myself from his animal's attacks and we disagreed on a course of action. Even though our characters had been friends since childhood. I think I'm finished with tabletop games. This story is fresh in my mind, so I wanted to mention it because it's bothering me a lot. Over on Roll20 there are a series of games called Living Worlds which are akin to West Marches games in D&D. These kinds of games tend to have multiple DMs that run games whenever players want to, so despite not having a set date, supposedly there's always games going on. The one in this story was a Pathfinder game set on a series of floating continents. Nothing unique, but the idea had merit. The game had a slow start as the head DM, who I'll just call head DM, was bringing in more people and other DMs to help out. At first he seemed like a decent enough guy who said he had his fair share of bad games. He had set up a series of rules to keep power gaming from happening and wanted the game to be designed for everyone to enjoy, to avoid the problems he experienced in the other campaigns he played. What ended up happening was the opposite. Things seemed fine at first, but the players started noticing some things. The main problem is head DM didn't know how to balance encounters. Example, the first encounter was against a bunch of pirates who were kidnapping people and taking them back to their lair. The group follows them and is immediately surrounded by 20 pirates with rifles pointed at them. The players were all level 1 and 2. No chance to get away or stealth. It was just forced on them. The pirates were headed by a Bloodridge skinwalker with bort rays. So even at level 3 the damn thing had 5 natural attacks, each capable of one-shotting the players. The party had to endure 5 real-life hours of one single fight as they slowly chipped down the pirates and disabled their firearms. The pirates even had cannons that weren't available normally, only to be beat by the Bloodridger, who took out 4 of the 5 in one round, with the last one surrendering. We had to retcon at least 2 deaths in that one. Only by sheer luck were they able to get away, but the entire party save for one player was knocked out. Head DM let them loot the guns that weren't available anywhere else and tossed some money their way, a whopping 200 GP. Barely enough to even afford the hospital bills to recover. He said he wanted to keep gold income low to avoid too much power creep. Head DM tried bringing in more people to help manage games and they seemed to do well. One of them, that I'll call the Fox, got along well with the other players and was super eager to run some games in the setting alongside his wife. But head DM was demanding and hypocritical. He expected the other DMs to get games set up for the players, including his own OP min-maxed character, but when it came time for him to run a game, suddenly he's unable to make it at the last minute with no warning ahead of time. The main story had to be put on hold for 2 weeks because he was too lazy to do a damn encounter. What's more, the guy wasn't as all-encompassing of ideas as he claimed to be. No third-party content was an obvious one. But one of the players asked him to include words of power, only to be told magic was strong as is and outright refused. But head DM managed to dupe the other DMs into letting his flying cavalier into the game. Said cavalier was tynazized with a reach weapon on a small flying mount, meaning every attack he would one-shot an enemy before flying out of enemy range, rendering him invincible. The players tried to tell him it's too much, but he kept deflecting the blame back on others instead of just accepting criticism. This weekend head DM was trying to continue the story. To his credit, he tried to keep his character behind while the main group went off to explore the desert continent for treasure, but was asked to bring her along anyway. Head DM sent her out to scout, where she was killed off screen due to botched rolls. Probably the only right thing he did. That didn't excuse the ridiculous battle he had for the group afterwards though. There was a curse that forced it to always be midday over a desert town. The group discovered the source was a sand hag and tracked her back to her lair and went into fight. 2 salamanders were outside guarding. The bard Fox on his character had the bright idea to distract them, but head DM wouldn't allow it, and despite being fascinated the moment the other players got close, both salamanders snapped out of it and attacked. One of them ran inside to warn the hag to give her time to buff up, while the other stalled the group. By the time the remaining salamander died and the group made their way inside, the hag was ready for them. The first action she did to a level 5 group was launch a fireball at them point blank, killing the arcanist of the group in one hit. It culminated in 5 hours of people trying their damnedest to survive against the hag's giant scorpion pets and the remaining salamander, while she spammed some sort of fatigue breath that blocked line of sight to her. Eventually they brought her down, and the players tried to talk to head DM about it. He refused to listen to them, thinking he was fine because he wanted to challenge the group. He regretted killing the arcanist, but the arcanist's player seemed fine with what happened and was already working on a new character. The other DMs were set to run a game the next day, since head DM got lazy and didn't have anything prepared despite saying he would, and had a simple bar fight run by Fox involving Fox's wife's level 5 healer, another level 5 character, a brand new player to the game, head DM's new character some sort of samurai thing, and the arcanist's new character. Fox sent a couple nooks after head DM's character to keep her preoccupied and knocked her out in 2 rounds. Much to head DM's frustration. Apparently he hates losing and spent the majority of the fight pouting and not paying attention since his character was unconscious. The arcanist's new character did well, at least managing to crit and kill the barbarian enemies easily. The healer of the group got the samurai back up, who then proceeded to flee the game, their logic being, since she didn't know the group had nothing to do with why the bandits were attacking, and didn't understand why said bandits targeted her, she didn't want to stick around to find this out, only to be knocked unconscious again when an evil cleric channeled negative energy on her, shooting the samurai. Head DM was so upset he rage quit the game and said his character was dead for good. After the game, head DM talked with Fox, getting angry that he dared used a barbarian and a level 5 cleric on a party split between level 5 and level 1 characters. Eventually Fox was sick of head DM's shit and left the game, along with 2 other moderators for the Discord server this all took place in. People started to slowly follow his lead, mostly agreeing that head DM was in the wrong, even when he tried to frame himself as being the only sane one of the group. I was head DM. All those mistakes were my mistakes. I was selfish and egotistical, and thought what I was doing was for the good of the game. I always said for the players to share ideas with the DMs, and we'll try and include them. But when it came to advice, I ignored them or deflected blame back at others. One of the DMs was trying to get a playbook post game going, but because of outside forces, his computer table breaking, being the main one, he was slow to respond. Like an idiot, I would nag him about that when I couldn't even get my own games going for less reasons. After no less than 3 DMs left, I couldn't keep the game going, so it was shut down permanently. I regret a lot of my decisions, and I know it's unusual to have someone post themselves as that guy, but after one of the DMs told me what my problem was, I think I finally understand that I'm just that guy to everyone else. I only wish I could apologize to Fox and his wife. They didn't do anything wrong. I was just salty and a hypocrite. I think I'm finished with tabletop games forever after something like this. Consider this a tale of warning. Don't be like me. Listen to your players and take criticism in stride. Learn to balance your encounters and don't throw a fit when something doesn't go your way.